Hello, avid listeners. Welcome back to episode number 19 of Conversations with a Martial Artist. Today I am joined by Chris "The Knee" Me. He is the head striking coach and owner of the Striking Clinic in Banbury, specialising in sort of K1 style kickboxing, although he's got a really diverse background. Coaches a lot of MMA. He himself has fought a ton of times in a ton of different arts. You'll hear a little bit more about his experience, but he's even done obviously K1, Muay Thai, MMA, even Pankration, among other things. So there's loads and loads of things to be gained from here. Really fun conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I was fortunate enough to take part in one of their classes. Fantastic facility, good vibe, good atmosphere. Definitely recommend it if you're ever in the area, so please do go check them out. I've put all of Chris's social media details in the description as well, so be sure to show him some support and follow him. But without further ado, sit back and enjoy the conversation. Okay, Chris, thank you for having me down. Thanks for the class today. It was good fun. Hard work killed me.
Yeah, bad work conditioning class. It's an interesting one because you don't get all the techie details that we do like day in, day out here. It's very much like I'll let you guys go, and if I see anything weird going on, I'll be like, before we're getting too loosey-goosey with the footwork, guys, why the fuck are your hands down here? Then we just tidy it up.
I was going to say, there's definitely an element of that. There's some technical shit in there, you know. I mean, it was all right.
Yeah, there's things I want to see, and if the tech starts to slip, and it's hard, right? Because you want to push yourself hard enough, and when you are pushing, your technique's going to start getting a bit sloppy, especially in the later rounds. But you also want to cap it. It's the whole point of being a coach, right? It's to try and improve people's technique.
Yeah, fair enough, and it works. I mean, you guys have got quite a lot of fighters and stuff here as well, don't you? You compete quite a bit.
Yeah. I think we've got about. Sorry, man, that's going to happen a lot through the
crack away, mate.
All the backwards cracks are always the bad ones. I think we got 11 active amateur fighters in the gym, and then we've got a bunch of guys that we're trying to push now to get more experience, like into club level and stuff. So we're coming up. When you think my gym now is only really 3 years old since we reopened, and we seem to be doing well.
And is that mainly strike? Because obviously you're the striking clinic, but you've also got precision MMA as kind of.
Yes, it's a joint endeavor. So it's one of these things. It's actually a bit of a blanket term and a bit of a marketing thing to call it precision MMA, but we don't really like. This is me. The 10th Planet Banbury's Gav, and then we just sort of.
Sometimes you hang out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like our kids classes and stuff. We call it the Vipers classes. But it's just a blanket like marketing term. We're die hard on our own brands, and the things we do together is cool and stuff. But we're ride or die for our own shit.
Fair enough. And you're very much firmly the striking type.
Well, I mean, I used to do a lot of jiu-jitsu back in the day as well.
Oh yeah.
I call myself a pikey pink belt, but is that one of the words?
Nah, you're good. Yeah, pikey pink belt. That's fine.
Nobody gets offended by the word pikey.
I don't know how many pikeys that follow us. I mean, maybe.
Apologies
to the pikey community if I've got a big audience there.
I prefer the term traveller. So pikey pink belt. So it was from back in the day where there weren't that many good gyms, like established gyms around, and I would coach at like kickboxing gyms, train at kickboxing gyms and traditional martial art gyms and stuff. And they knew that they had to do a bit, and so you just figure it out as you go. So total pikey pink belt, mate. I can show you a triangle, but that's about it.
Because you did MMA as well as, obviously, I know mainly striking has been your background, but MMA, because that's how you met Gav. I think he was explaining the first time.
We trained at Redditch MMA together back in the day. God, it's got to be a long time ago now. It's got to be 2008, 2007, something like that. Yeah, training with James Whistler was a coach there. He's strength to strength now. He's just opened a new gym, still Redditch MMA, and he's affiliated to 10th Planet Redditch. Yeah. And the place looks sick. I haven't been down there myself yet, but I do love a little gym tour, so I might be heading down soon, see how it looks,
Fair enough. And so on the competition thing, I'm assuming you're probably primarily a striker based on your background.
I enjoy a punch and a kick, I do. No, what happened was I had a really bad shoulder injury I was a few days out from a fight for a semi-pro English Welsh title. I can't even remember what the organisation was called now. And
in MMA, is that?
In MMA, yeah. And I had some horrific. It was like demonstrating a technique. They ripped a Kimura on. They went to roll, but they tripped over my leg, and we basically, I landed on my shoulder with my arm in a Kimura, and they landed on top of me, and it was like singular impact. And my collarbone was just like whoop, straight up, shoulders down, and I'm like, I think I'll be all right to fight, coach. Probably not, dude. You need A&E. Yeah, so that was an emotional one.
Right.
Yeah.
I can understand why you have a bit of a loathing for the grappling then.
Yeah. After that, I never really had the faith in the shoulder that it was gonna keep together. For like, if somebody put me in a Kimura, I'd be like, "Oh, dude, yeah, it's nice." They're looking at it like, "Oh, do you know what? I could get my hands. I'm out, mate. I'm out." Yeah, it was hanging on by a thread, and I opted to not have surgery, right? And I made it 10 years of just hanging on by the little bits of ligament that I had left. And then one day I was, what did I do? Yeah, I was at the gym with a friend, and I normally go in and like warm it up and stuff. And they were like, "Wow, let's just get to it." And I was like, "Fair enough." And I went on the shoulder press, and something went bang in my shoulder. I was like, "Oh, that's a bad one." But I'm not the type to complain and make a fuss of it. So carried on. Well, I didn't do the rest of the shoulder workout.
Fair enough.
The next day I was like, I'm going to go to this yoga class. Yoga's good for you. And I think I went from like a plank position into a downward dog, and there was another bang. And then on the Thursday, then I was working, and I went to put something on top. I was working for a tree surgeon at the time, and I went to move this log on top of a van, just swing it up. And as I did, my shoulder just like completely
gave up.
Yeah, completely disconnected. I had to have it all reattached. I've got a lovely little scar for all the chicks and dudes that dig scars.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's happened already. This ain't good. This ain't good, huh? This is the problem when you deal with a caveman like me.
Yeah.
We're good. We're on.
We're good.
Yeah. So yeah, cool little scar. It's quite a quick recovery, actually. It's yeah. It's weird though. The amazing surgery, as far as they cut it out, they literally chop it out, pull out the bone, cut the end off it, but then they tie a little artificial ligament round and then strap it down to some other shit, and it's fantastic. It works almost immediately. You're back with a fully working arm within 3 months.
Wow.
And yeah, the only thing is that I found that's a bad thing about it, if I try and load things up, like you carry a bit of timber or whatever, put it on your shoulder, it sits on the ligament and it feels horrendous. It is, yeah, immediately there's plastic in my arm. Yeah, so that's the only thing I've had to change to loading up on the left side.
Heavy load on it.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing too weird. Is this good?
Yeah, you're fine.
I was fighting with my Adam's apple down here.
Okay, yeah, that is a pretty rough one. And it sounds like you've had your fair share of gnarly surgeries as well.
No, I'm putting them off at the moment. I'm trying my best not to go surgery route as much as I can, or at least, what's the way to put it? I think everything's probably best the way God intended, and so me just chopping out bits to have bits of metal replaced, hips and backs and discs and knees at this age is probably not good, because I'm 36 and I've been told they want to do like a resurface on the right hip then the left, and they said to me they'll replace my right knee whenever I want it. And I'm like, cool, and nobody wants to touch my back, so we'll just deal with the pain. So
fair enough. Yeah. And is that all from just years of abuse to the body?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people think that the injuries happen in the fights.
Yeah.
And you do get acute injuries from fights. You get the bumps and the bruises and the little fractures and breaks and weird bits and pieces with your feet and stuff. But actually it's the training, I think, was the thing that did me in. We trained very intensely, very hard. And the whole resting and recovering was never really focused on. It was more about, shut up, get in the fucking gym, do it, let's train, let's push it, let's go. And I'm just looking to see, was somebody poking their head through my door then, or is that doing something weird? I'd be all right. Yeah, and that was always the focus. But that was also my mentality as well. So I can't just put it all on the coaches that I had. It's definitely, I was into that shit. I wanted to be as intense as possible. I want to run faster, push harder, do more pull-ups, do more push, let's spar more rounds. But there's a point where it does take its toll.
Your body catches up.
Yeah. But then through that, I now don't coach that way. So this is the most intense session that we have in the week. Okay. When we spar well, we spar hard with certain intensity for the guys that know what they're doing. But the rest of the classes are focused on technique mostly. And then when the guys have to get fit for fights, I don't make them do extra burpees or extra press-ups or fucking hill sprints and shit. I send them out doing base training, like gentle jogging and things. We got a 7-day-a-week timetable here between me and 10th Planet Banbury upstairs. So I don't need intense training outside of the gym. I need that low, steady state stuff. So we're trying to do it a smarter way, you know?
I like that actually, because I think I'm sort of the same, whereas because I'm a bit dorky about the martial arts, I'm always like, every day I'm like, I want to be training. I don't really do the rest day thing.
Yeah.
And I think that like a lower intensity, like there's hard days and lighter days, and having that kind of tick along during the week is probably the only reason I'm still alive.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you can manage your intensity, and have you ever looked into heart rate variability?
Not a huge amount.
I would say it wasn't around when I was training, but it seems like that's the move on the way forwards, where it will literally tell you, you're green, go and do whatever the fuck you want. You're amber, maybe take the foot off the pedal a little bit. You're red, yoga, touch your toes, don't do anything, perfect. It seems like the smartest way to train. I think heart rate monitors in martial arts is very difficult, because I can't strap a heart rate monitor to a guy and then be like, go and do some rounds, dude. We'll see where you're at. But bag work and stuff maybe, but you wouldn't want to have one on your chest and then get punched. So,
that's it.
Wham,
I've always wondered that.
Yeah, because not a move for me.
The one that aggravates me is the Apple Watch fitness thing.
Yeah.
It tells me I'm a lazy bastard. That's because I have to take it off for training all the time.
I didn't realise.
I'm training 3 hours a day.
If I knew that an Apple Watch was going to call you a piece of shit multiple times a day, I'd make all my guys have it. You're a piece of shit. Fucking eat more salad, you prick. What's the matter with you? You don't want to be fat anymore? Come on, fatty, move. That would be brilliant. If I could do the custom insults for the Apple Watch.
Like a voice. I think you've got the voice for it. I think you could nail that.
Yeah. Like a sat-nav voice, you know? Yeah. Turn left, you prick. Perfect. That's what we want.
But so go back to it. The intensity thing is quite important. And I think what you're saying with the monitoring thing is a big push more recently, or especially for like high level athletes and stuff, where they're taking the recovery much more serious, like the explosion of the ice bath and things like that.
Yeah, I used to ice bath once a week. So we'd have our big caveman circuit session and sprints and stuff on a Saturday, but it'd be like 3 hours long, and we'd get I'd finish, I'd put these compression trousers on, I'd drink some massive protein drink, I'd drive home, I'd get in an ice bath, 20 minutes in there with this fucking dithering away, and then and mostly I would sit in the compression trousers, and I would lay with my legs up the wall to try and get as much lactic acid out as possible. Whether that is some absolute bullshit or not, we'll never know, but that's what I used to do. And if I was feeling intellectual, which was very rare, I'd lay there reading a book. Nice. Or I'd sit there watching the TV, mostly the TV. I think I don't want to pretend like I was I sound a bit pretentious there really. I'd read.
I'd get Charles Dickens out or something of that ilk, you know.
Obviously I'm not the reading type. I don't know if I was giving off that vibe, that high intellectual vibe. Definitely not that. Very caveman.
Just some trash on the TV, more likely.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. I'm with you. No one wants to think. After you've been battered in the head a few times, you don't want to go home and have to use your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Once you've sweat out a few litres, you're not thinking, do you know what? I need to read some more.
So going back then to some of your background. So obviously we spoke a little bit about your MMA training.
Yes.
But it's mainly Muay Thai was sort of your focus, is my understanding, right?
So long story short, right? So I've always done something that had striking in it. Okay. So when I was a kid, going back from 6 into my early teens, I was at the local karate school, and there was always some sort of sparring or boxing rounds, and they even did back to back, jiu-jitsu, but you would just start from kneeling back-to-back position. So they were very, what's the way to put it? So the guy who actually ran the karate school, because you think of karate schools nowadays, you're like, dudes in pajamas, slap fighting, very gay. Yeah, I don't mean that in any offense. If you are gay, I don't mean to put you on the same pedestal as karate. I just mean it's a bit gay. But this guy was a former Marine. He'd boxed in the army, done judo, and just sort of got that it's not all katas and slaps and whatever.
Sure.
So there was some karate style point sparring. There was also some boxing sparring. There was also some back-to-back jiu-jitsu-y kind of scrapping, you know? And that made it a bit more of a real martial art for me. You know, I'm way more interested in the sport side of things than the other side, the traditional side of things. But back in the day, you couldn't really, or I certainly couldn't find gyms that just did the sport side of things. It was all very, we do karate and spar, we do kung fu and spar. There wasn't really any strict Muay Thai gyms local to me.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah, I guess quite a few people have said that the kind of combat sports thing is only really blown up in more recent years. I guess past decade or so, where there is actually focused gyms now. Whereas before it was all very much it's just a karate school, or taekwondo as well. I had quite a lot and things, but I guess you struggle to get that like fighting element, like combat sports fighting element, don't you? Yeah.
Whereas you look around now, it's probably 5-1 combat gyms to traditional gyms, and I like it. I'm a fan of this. I think even if you don't train at the best gym in the world here, but
nice
even if too right. But even if you don't train at the best gym in the world, if you are getting an element of combat in, whether it's some form of striking, some form of jiu-jitsu or MMA altogether, you get to see what it's really like and how much of this stuff's going to work for you, and it's not, it's just not at all, it's nice. I like traditional martial arts as far as keeping the traditions alive. I totally understand that. My cutoff is where people are like, dude, the reason why you don't see XYZ Tai Chi in the UFC is because it's so deadly. Every movement's a death touch and everything. It's like, if there was a way to touch somebody and they die, it would have accidentally happened at least once by now. But,
yeah. Or some geezer would have smoked the UFC.
Yeah.
It absolutely destroyed the whole roster.
Could you imagine just, like, they say Ngannou's got the touch of death. But they're like, actually, fucking Barry here, who I met down the pub, says he knows
60 kilo geezer.
Yeah.
He's a bit overweight.
Putting his cigarette out and fucking poking people in the chest. And they're just, it could happen, mate. It could happen.
I'm here for it. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'd pay to watch it. If we can make it happen, I'll do it. I'll fight him. Kill me, dude. Take me away.
So, not high rating those in combat sports.
Yeah, definitely not.
Do you find there is much crossover between kind of more traditional, like either freestyle kickboxing, karate, that sort of still striking element, but when you start putting it into like K1 or Glory rule sets or MMA and things like that?
I think there's definitely elements of each thing that you can use in. So we tend to spar hybrid rules here. So what I mean by that is it's normally K1 rules, so we don't have any tie clinching.
Okay.
But we still catch, sweep, throw, whatever. So it's more towards the MMA striking year round. Even the guys that don't do MMA spar these hybrid rules where we can catch and throw and take down or get a position. So there's an element when people come in. So we've had guys come in who have been very good, like former professional American freestyle kickboxers and things. And they'll do really well until people are like, oh, you don't know how to kick at all. Or like, if I catch your leg, we're completely, So there's definitely elements of each martial art that you can use, but there's vast amounts that you have to strip away.
Yeah, sure.
Vast amounts normally. But just a punch is a punch and a kick is a kick. So 90% of what you know is good. but it's just refining it to a point where you don't step with your foot pointing inwards, you step with your toes pointing out, you do,
just the micro adjustments.
Yeah, micro adjustments. That's a gross term. Okay.
Sorry about
that. More like macro adjustments.
Okay.
That's micro adjustments makes it sound like I'm just gonna just tuck your thumb there. Micro adjustment. Absolutely perfect. And I'm like, no. Step completely different.
Yeah. Change everything.
Yes, yeah. I hate the way you move. Let's go. No more side kicks. They're gross.
Oh yeah, I upset you earlier.
Yeah, you did. The first thing you throw in the bag, like shaky side kick. I thought you were fighting K1 soon. That's gross. They won't let you do that. The ref will come over and be like, dude, what are you doing? No.
Yeah,
Totally allowed a side kick. So I have a phrase here where I say side kicks are shit because back kicks are so much better than a side kick.
Okay.
But we'll go over that later. And we'll do it not on camera. But they're a much better kick. They're a much more stable kick. And also, there's just a lot can go wrong in a side kick that can lose your power. I know in like American freestyle and stuff, it works because they're at that range, you're at that range. But when there's so much else there, it's not the move. It's not the move.
So do you tend to incorporate many other types of kicks, or are you pretty traditionally like Dutch Muay Thai style, where a lot of rounds and teeps and?
Yeah, for the most part, roundhouse kicks, especially, we've been focusing on the last 12 months or so, more on calf kicks and things, because I see it as an area that a lot of gyms are ignoring, the same as we were speaking earlier about, used to find a lot of kickboxing gyms back in the day that would just keep everything above the waist. They would ignore low kicks. And at some point, you either have to sink or swim and be like, right, we got to suck it up and start kicking each other in the leg and just be shit for a little while until we figure it out. Or we just stay here and everybody goes to more K1 schools, more MMA schools, because nobody wants to do this American freestyle anymore. And that's the same with calf kicks. I think if you're not one of the first gyms to jump on the bandwagon of calf kicks and figure out how to do it, you're going to get left behind when the movement progresses.
Yeah, you don't want to be the ones that are then in a few months or years' time, whatever, when everyone's doing it, just smoking legs.
Yeah. In 5 years' time, it'll be in everybody's syllabus. It'll be in every gym. But right now, I bet it's in 10% of gyms in the country.
Yeah, probably. To be honest, I don't think I've ever really had much of a focus on like a technical aspect of doing it. It's just very much, same shit. Just throw it a bit lower.
Yeah, but it's completely different.
Yeah,
it's completely different. The setups for it are different, and of course, the risk to reward is so much higher because if they do block it properly, your shin can be wrapped around their leg.
Lovely.
But if they don't, you've seen how many times have you seen 3 calf kicks land in a fight and somebody's completely incapacitated? It's a bit of a cheat code. It's a bit of that touch of death stuff. You know?
Yeah. One step closer.
One step closer. One step closer.
To figure that out.
I don't know if you've noticed yet. I do totally derail myself. You'll ask me a question and then I'll be like, yeah, and then another thing, and then another thing. And that's just years of getting hit in the head. So if you do ask a question and then I fucking go off like this, you're like, Chris, bring it back.
That's all right. Me too. I'm pretty terrible for that. Like I say, we go where we go, you know. We'll talk about any old shit, really.
Yeah. So I've gone about 2 years. So once I opened this up, I had about a year where I was sparring with people and trying to make sure that they're moving the right way and doing things. But I was at a point already where my head's a bit punchy. And so when I do spar, I tend to find for the next 3 or 4 days, a week or so afterwards, I'm a bit like, and over the last 3 weeks, I've been introducing sparring to the juniors and things here. And the best way to do it is to introduce it with me and a couple of the junior coaches first. And then eventually, once they know the rules and the contact levels and stuff, you get them to spar with each other. And so some of these kids, they do not, I'm like, yeah, you guys can't hit each other in the head, but you can hit me in the head. And they're like, fucking cool. Because you're a bit of a dick, Chris. Just overhand rights. I'm like, what is this? Yeah, so they don't go easy on you. You definitely take a punch. But for the last 3 weeks, for 3 or 4 days after these sparring kids. Even with the kids, I'm like, yeah. So yeah, if I'm derailing, it's the kids' fault. Blame
Yeah,
them.
I always tend to blame the kids for these things.
Exactly.
But that's quite interesting. How many fights have you had? Do you know?
As far as Muay Thai, I had a couple of fights on shows, big ones, and then just interclubs galore.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
But I don't know. Have you done any interclubs yourself?
Not yet. No.
So my introduction to Muay Thai, I was quite late on. I'd done lots of kickboxing and lots of pankration and stuff before then. But I was about 21 when I went to Redditch MMA, and it was based in Titan's gym in Redditch, which was a really good Muay Thai gym at the time. And I was like, fuck it, I'm in. I cancelled all of my traditional martial art memberships and started training at Titan's full time. And I'm definitely trying to remember where I was going here. I've been hit. What was the question?
The question was about how many fights?
Yes. So 30 or something interclubs. But interclubs were very different back in the day. Nowadays, it's very technical. And I was there for that change where it was like, has to be controlled contact, has to be thrown from like basically a composed stance and da-da-da-da-da. When I started, my first, I think 7 or 8 interclubs were not that. It was just fights in small rings, in weird gyms and boozers and also all sorts of things. But then after that, we came into the calmer phase where it was like, you're looking to score, you're looking to learn how to land and things, and to spar with somebody who doesn't know your stuff and you don't know theirs. But the first interclub I had was probably the roughest I had. And I remember I was in a weird weight category where I was standing around 80, well, I'd cut down to about 80 kilos for fight day, on day. And it was a weird number because there seemed to be lots of people lighter than you and they'd all match up with each other. And then you'd be about the highest of the light guys.
Right.
And then there'd be some fucking unit who would turn up and be like, oh, we've got nobody to fight the 94 kilo guy. Chris, you're the closest guy. And that was my first interclub. And I remember sitting on this little exercise bike in the gym, just sitting there rocking back and forth and being like, why the fuck do I do this? Like, I was so nervous. I was like, why the fuck do I do this? And this guy's walking around just buff as shit, got his shirt off early and stuff. I'm like, fucking dude, like, what the fuck am I doing? And I had a moment of peace in myself where I was like, all right, if this don't go my way, fuck all this. I'm sick of sitting here being nervous all the time before every competition. I hate the fucking nerves. I hate all this. And I just had this moment of peace where I was like, all right, so we go out there and we do the best we can. And if he smashes us, we're done. And if I smash him, we keep going. Cool. And I smashed him. I think he didn't come out for the 3rd round because of a rib injury. I kicked him and he was injured. And I was like, fuck it, we'll keep going. yeah. Fuck it, let's see how far this takes us. But that's what interclubs were back in the day. There were so many stoppages and people not being able to come out for the next round and you name it. Whereas nowadays it's very much like, come on, we're all here.
That first step towards competing properly.
Yeah.
Although saying that, we were talking about this on one of the other podcasts. Is they're not that much of a joke either. I mean, some of these guys come out and it's supposed to be all, lightish contact, like a hard spar, basically.
Yes.
People, that goes out the fucking window right away.
You get that, especially like when you're new to it, or if you've had a bad experience in one. You're like, oh, you fucking think I'm coming out feeling that out whilst this guy's coming out swinging? No chance. Back to the original question. So, 30 or so, I think I had 33 interclubs ranging from absolute brawls to very nice technical matches. And then before that, I'd done pankration, but as an amateur. So it was weird rules. It was basically C-class MMA from back in the day. But it was, again, weird setups. Like you guys are so lucky nowadays that everywhere you compete, there's a ring, there's a cage, there's a this. It's like affordable. Whereas I used to do a lot of the WUMA competitions. I don't ask me what WUMA stands for, but it was a big kickboxing organisation from the Midlands, and they used to just put a little bit of gaff tape across their mats, and you would just have and there was no boundaries, no anything like that. But it was C-class, so you couldn't punch to the head, but you were in amateur. Well, no, you were in 4-ounce MMA.
Yeah,
instead
the
of the
pro ones, the thin.
Yeah, the thin ones. So you just punch each other in the body, hit each other in the leg. I think you could kick, but if you opted to not wear shinies, then you couldn't kick. But then it meant that if you were on your back or when you were grappling exchanges, you jiu-jitsu, you'd get more off. So it was, for me, you did what you had to do at the time, and I competed at least once a month. If I won my weight category, I would fight in with the heavyweights because I was classed as light heavy at 84 kilos.
Right.
And so, I tried to compete as often as possible, as much as you can. And it's an experience thing. Every time you go out there, you learn something. And I used to retire the things that I would win with. So if I'm like, oh, I managed to land this takedown, I managed to land this submission or these fucking punches or whatever, I'd be like, right, let's put that on the back burner. The next month, I'm going to focus on landing this, and the other.
Okay.
And it meant a couple of things. It meant that, one, you expand your technique,
of course.
especially of what you're like highly proficient at. But also, if anybody was there last month and saw you fight, well, dude, he was really good at this fucking armbar last week or last month. You know, I'm not looking for that
anymore.
Yeah, completely looking for something completely different. And so nobody really got a grasp of your game. You know,
I like that.
I mean, don't do it. Like it worked for me, but it was some pony shit. But what I would say, between that, I did some American freestyle competitions when I was younger, some Chinese kickboxing like Jindar and stuff, and just jumped on whatever I could. As if I could compete multiple times a day and try to compete multiple times a month, I would. So I've probably stood at mat side, ring side, or whatever, hundreds of times, hundreds of times, but not, nothing majorly major. Yeah, that's
what I can see how that would make you a bit punchy, to be fair.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to put a number on how many times I've been hit in the head.
Yeah,
I've definitely been knocked out solidly 3 times. I've been heavily concussed at least 8 times, and then just the general rattling of day-to-day sparring 3 times a week, and you pick up a fair bit of head trauma. Yeah, it's the good stuff.
I bet. Yeah, sounds delightful. You're really selling it.
Yeah, you've got a fight coming up, haven't you? That'll be nice.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Keep your hands up, will you? Yeah. Buy yourself a good gum shield. You'll be fine. Yeah. So if anybody does want to come and get head trauma, Striking Clinic Banbury. No,
perfect place. Such a good spot for it.
Exactly. Well, to be fair, because of the punchiness that I have and stuff, we do spar hard on a Wednesday night, but it's invite only sparring session.
Okay.
And what that means is nobody can walk in off the street from another gym without them knowing me, knowing somebody would have to like refer them in.
Yeah.
But also it means that you have to kind of qualify here to get into the sparring session. And that's not you have to be good enough to be able to fight this dude and fight this. You have to be good enough to protect yourself. You have to be good enough to keep your hands up. And if I'm saying things like, dude, I want you to keep on the outside of that punch. I need you to step towards the lead leg or do this or parry like this. I just need you to know what all of those things mean before I dump you in with people that, it's not that the team would hurt you, it's that you'll make a big mistake and get hurt in the process. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Because I think that's where the biggest life-changing injuries come from, where some dude comes out all bobbing and weaving and somebody's like, your head is dead. Yeah. It's like, night, we'll come and wake you up later.
Yeah. I guess that is. And so the way that you train your team now, I'm assuming, would you recommend the same strategy you took of just go out and compete as much as possible? Is that something that you go, or?
I think so. I think it's really difficult nowadays because especially the amateur MMA scene, wow, it is. Yeah. It is high right now. You've got guys that are training 6-7 days a week, 3 hours a day, and they're going out there and you're like, this is pro level shit. Like back when I was first introduced to amateur MMA, you would have some dudes that trained at pretty good gyms and they would put out good performances, but you were looking at amateurs. You'd be like, oh yeah, but his guard's a little sloppy, but he's got reasonable hands. He's got a good punch here. Oh, he's got a good takedown there, but he's making loads of mistakes just from lack of experience. And nowadays, it ain't like that at all. And people are having amateur careers. You're like 17 fights as an amateur. I'm like, what are you doing? Like with at least a like a three-quarter win rate, and you think, dude, go pro, man. Like you know, that's what I think the amateurs, for me, I always thought it would be something that you'd have 3 to 5 fights, and especially if you had quite a positive record, if you were 4-1 or whatever, then you'd be like, oh, cool, let's go pro. But it is not, man. There are people that are clinging on to the amateurs as a full-time job. You know, it's very strange.
Well, I guess it must be such a jump up to go pro as well. Like the same way of being like a hobbyist beginner, going, actually, I want to fight amateur. It's quite a leap. But then I guess that leap must be again the same when you get the other side. I'm not there. I don't know.
No, well, I've known reasonable amateurs jump onto the pro scene because they're like, oh, hang on, there's a purse, somebody's dropped out, there's money. Well, I've been fighting for free or ticket money. Let's jump on
getting kicked in the head anyway.
And they've won. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? You know, I mean, the rule set is probably the biggest difference. And as far as safety for yourself, you know, you got to not mind taking an elbow here and there, or taking a knee to the head here and there, and that's the thing that keeps the amateurs safest. You know, if you've got a front of house job, you probably need to stick to the amateur rules. Keep the big, but mate, shin to the head, that'll leave you a bruise, that'll leave a mark. You know, so you're not getting away scot free. But yeah, I think I'd like to see more of the high level amateurs step up to the pros, you know, and have that little bit of proving ground for the real amateurs. There's the guys, I mean, guys from here that we're putting in for debuts, they're really good. They're really good. And then you're putting them in thinking, we might be sandbagging here, putting this guy in for a debut. And they fight guys, and I'm like, what is this? This is insane. It is an insanely high level fight. And and you're thinking to yourself, God, maybe the level is really just this high, you know?
Yeah, that's it.
I suppose the more gyms hold themselves to a high standard, the better it's going to get, you know?
And the more there is that element of like, not quite sandbagging, but having this high standard it means that the bar actually for where you are as an amateur actually is that much higher, isn't it? It's no longer like, oh yeah, you could do pretty all right in your gym and then go have a crack at an amateur fight. Now it's like, no, you got to be pretty up there, because that's where the market is now.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves as a coach. The people that will message you that don't train, that will have trained previously or something. Always been a fan of the sport. I'd like to train for a year and then have a fight, or I'd like to train for 6 months and then have a fight. And I'm like, dude, you got no idea. It's like it might take you 6 months to get spar ready here. You know, we have on a Monday night we have like a mixed ability spar, but it's very much like, right, I tell the room every week, you guys are learning to spar. You're trying to prove to me that you're good enough to spar in the thing. And if you're with somebody that you feel like can be competitive with you, cool, you two can go at a bit of a higher pace, a faster rate and stuff. But you learn to spar and then you can go and spar.
Yeah, that's the thing, because there is such a gap between, I mean, even when you start sparring with someone that's like brand new and the movement's just all over the place and it's so random, and it's almost, I find it really tricky. Sparring brand new people, I'm like, you don't move like you're supposed to move.
Yeah, there's rules to this. Don't move this way. I'm going to punch you in the face. And there's a lot of, I think in jiu-jitsu it's different from my experience in jiu-jitsu, because if you make a big obvious mistake in jiu-jitsu, it's taken away from you almost immediately. You put your hands on the mat, somebody wraps up the kimura. You reach back and put one hand in the guard, you're in a triangle. And everybody seems to know those things very early on. Whereas with striking, there's so many things where you'll watch people just circling the power side and you're like, what are you doing? Or crossing their feet when they're walking around and things. Or, you know, rhythmical guards and being like here, rocking. I'm like, why? But they're getting away with it because people don't necessarily know straight away to react to that. You know?
Yeah, there's not that immediate feedback, because I guess in jiu-jitsu, if you get subbed, you're fine. Okay, now I know not to do that.
Yes.
The only way that you get the equivalent of a submission would be getting knocked out.
Or at least having a very clean shot landing.
Yeah, rough head.
But sometimes people just think it's, they did really well. They landed a really good punch. It's like, no, man, you were making 12 mistakes.
You know? No, you fucked that. That guy shouldn't have been able to hit you.
Exactly. Yeah, there's definitely, I I tried to. I'm one of these guys. I'm a real procrastinator of things, and I tried to make like a sparring rule list, like a bit of a Bible for it, where you don't circle this, don't do this, you should arc away from that, do this, keep this hand here, rear hands this. But at the end of it, I'm like, I'm going to spend 3 weeks writing this list out, making sure it's all good, and nobody's going to read it, so I'll just fucking leave it. Yeah.
Probably fair.
I might do it. We'll see. If it comes, if I do it, I'll let you know. But yeah, it's probably not. Don't hold your breath on that one. There's a lot of things in the pipeline of the brain here. They ain't getting done.
Well, it's not a bad idea in that. Like, I think it's important to understand a lot of the theory of this stuff. Yeah. Because like, as soon as you're like, oh, I've got to remember, you know, I need to be moving this way, or this is like a general rule of thumb. Like, you understand what's happening. That's normally where you see like a noticeable change. Whereas a lot of the times you can just get away with stuff because you're getting away with it. Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it time and time again where people aren't necessarily a good striker, but they have a good punch.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if you look at somebody like, take Ronda Rousey, for example, okay? Not a good striker. We've all seen that shadowboxing video where she just sticks over here like she's having a stroke and throws boom, 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 doesn't let the right shoulder through at all. She's not rotating her feet. She's not doing anything good. But yet she's got multiple knockouts on her.
Did it right for herself.
Yeah. God knows how she did it. But she did it, you know? Yeah, it's a weird one. You can get away with a lot of shit in striking.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think there's so much like margin for error almost that there's so many variables that you can get away with a lot of stuff. Like, just being slightly weird will throw off people to what they're not used to.
Yeah, completely. And like we were saying with the jiu-jitsu reference, that's the word I'm looking for. God, don't get hit in the head, kids, all right? So if you're sparring a guy who knows what he's doing, he can utilize those mistakes straight away. So we have a position that we drill, and we drill it from both sides, but it's southpaw orthodox. So we'll do some drills one week. Well, every session we'll do some that's orthodox, and then we'll drill that same combination, both southpaw to southpaw. And some weeks we'll switch it up and we'll go lefty righty and then righty lefty. And if you're aware of southpaw orthodox lines, there's a really nice high kick, and it's the same line that Leon Edwards has used on that finish. But there's hundreds of left to right knockouts. Okay, so as far as the high kick goes, and so we drill that position. Yet you'll find people standing it with their head in a bad position when they're sparring all the time, and it's because either the person doesn't have the hip mobility for a high kick, or doesn't realize what they're doing, or the person's like, oh, I threw a really light one at you earlier and you didn't pick up on the read, so I can't just spam head kicks at you until Chris tells me off. You know, so at some point you're like, all right, I'll just work on something else, and you keep making this mistake. So there's got to be a way to get that out of people and try and
learn that.
Like
internalize that.
Those mistakes, get rid of them completely.
And that's quite interesting you say about the stances. So you guys you're a stance switcher school. You're bi-stancial.
Multi-stance. So I was a right-handed southpaw, which so unorthodox southpaw, I'd say. But my right hip has always been shut down, so I can't really kick much above an opponent's knee, even on a good day. And nowadays it's below the knee. But my left leg was okay. I could kick to like shoulder height, chest height. Perfect. That'll do me. So I had right hand, left leg, so southpaw seemed like the best option. But then I trained at a couple of gyms where they were like, no southpaws here, mate. You've got, like, if you're doing the syllabus work or if you're hitting the bag, I want to see you orthodox. But when you spar, you can do what you want. So it was really weird. So I would drill everything tidy orthodox and then spar southpaw.
Right.
It's a weird setup. But you, like I said, back in the day, you had to do what you could get, kids, all right? And that's what I could get. So here, you walk in southpaw, walk in orthodox, it doesn't matter. But then that has really given me, because I demonstrate orthodox, you know, but all of my sparring and competitive experience, I would go as a southpaw. But when you come here, I'll demonstrate everything as tidily as I can as an orthodox fighter, because the majority of people are right-handed.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a time in the class where I'm like, right, guys, same combo. It's a 1, 2, 7, 3, whatever. Right foot forwards, let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
So you drill everyone into switching stance.
Switching stance.
Well.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. I think that's something that again, no, you're not a big fan. The traditional martial arts are quite good for.
Yeah.
Like the stance, especially like freestyle kickboxing, they'll do everything to both sides and things like that. Karate guys, and that is one element that I do quite like. I'm not very good at fighting southpaw, but I do like it.
Yeah, you say so. No, I like to think of myself. So if you've heard of the MMA fighter Paul Daly?
Yes.
British guy from up north, just desperately trying to swerve around the word black there. Edit. No. So yeah, big scary dude from up north. He's a wicked fighter, but he's actually he's left-handed orthodox.
Okay.
So it means like he has this tremendous lead hook on him, but it's because it's his power hand and he stands left foot forwards. But that's the same if you're southpaw. And if you find a home for your right hand, it is if you can hone that lead hook and lead body shot on that side, even your uppercut, and it gives you this incredibly accurate jab because it's your handwriting hand. You're used to detail here. If you tried to get me to write my name with the left hand, it's watch my right hand do it 1,000 times. No chance.
Yeah.
No chance. So yeah, there's benefits of sparring southpaw, training southpaw, but it normally means that you have two different fighting styles. You have what you do on your left, where you're trying to pop the jab and set up a big powerful shot on your right hand, and what you do on your southpaw side. Normally you're doing a lot more defense and protection and distraction with your left hand, whereas you're actually looking for your right hand for the damage. That's my preference anyway.
I like that. Yeah, that's it, because that is something that I try and play with, but mainly more so in just playing with a heavy bag and stuff like that. I'm not good enough at doing much. There's we've got one trick that I can actually land in sparring from southpaw, and then I'm abandoning shit pretty fast.
But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I think the ability to safely change when you're orthodox, if you just take a step back, because if I take a step back in orthodox and you take a step forwards, we've both covered the same amount of space. Whereas if I'm orthodox and I take a step through with this leg, well, if you take a step forwards, you've only gained 6 inches. I've gained several feet.
Yeah.
And if you make the mistake of walking through, then you're going to square up as you're walking towards me, and that's the opportunity to shoot. Sorry, I put my legs back.
But yeah, no, it is super interesting. I think there's not a lot of places that put enough focus on it. I think it's almost like you walk into a gym, it's like, are you left-handed or right-handed? Oh, you're right-handed. Okay, great. Then you'll learn ortho, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But it can really throw people off. I remember my first boxing match. It was a white collar one, and I hadn't met the guy until the day, and I was literally talking to him because you all share the change room and stuff, and we were having a chat, and he mentioned that he was left-handed. I was like, thank fuck I heard that. I went straight to my coach. I was like, what the fuck do I do about that? I hadn't sparred any southpaws, none of that. Yeah. And it just threw me off. And the first round, sure enough, I went into autopilot, bit adrenaline up.
Yeah.
And I was just circling straight into his hand. I was getting smoked with his left every time.
That's the thing. People associate, when you're sparring right-handed people all the time, they're standing orthodox, you associate circling the lead leg with the direction that you're going, or when I walk, I'm always going right foot out, left foot follow, right foot out, left foot follow. You spar a southpaw, you're going to get popped straight away because you're just broadening your centre line on their power side. And those are things that we coach here when we're sparring. It's mostly just me shouting at the lads between rounds, to be honest, when I say coach. But you circle the lead hand regardless of what stance they're in, but you arc away from the power, and that gives you more of a safe distance, more of a safe control. But the biggest takeaway that I try and give my guys is to deal with as much as you can on the centre line, and then move when you see the opportunity to move. So you'll see a lot of gyms that are like, no, keep moving, keep walking around. Well, every time my feet are walking, I can't kick if my foot's here. I can't kick if this foot's here. So me being in a prime position and dealing with what's being thrown at me and using my space to defend and then throw. And then if they're overcommitting to something, then we move around. If I'm finding myself close to the wall, move. These are good times to move. But you shouldn't just be walking constantly. You should stand your ground, throw some hands, mate, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I think there's a lot of movement-based things as well, and you just get so into hopping around and stuff. Yeah. But you're right, there is an element of you just got to fucking stand there and
I try and shut down all of the showy footwork as well, where people are doing the L step where people take their lead leg and rock it back and run this out and bring that forward. I'm like, what? Like, just do this. Just do this. There's nothing snazzy to do there. Unless you're really showboating and like flicking the jab and popping and rolling. Like, cool. But I'll shout at you when you come back to the corner. That's the move. Like, fuck are you doing? Why stand as you're moving your feet like that? Just punch them in the face. Yeah. Be fine.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair enough. And in terms of rules and things, because obviously there's you're the striking clinic, and there's a lot that comes under that. There's a lot of different striking rule sets. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference, either you personally or for your guys as fighters, mm-hmm. of what style you like to train for, or what style? Obviously you train the hybrid rules you're saying, but do you include like knees and elbows and stuff?
We train knees normally to the body because we don't have anybody here that competes at a professional level. So although it's good to train things that you might use in the street, or you might use one day competitively, I try and focus on the things that we are competing in. Yeah. So I try and keep it towards the sport that we're going to work in, and that's going to either be K1 or MMA for my guys. Because I find if I put on Muay Thai classes 3 times a week and they're all up here and tippy-tapping and rhythm with the feet and popping the lead leg and things, that's cool and it'll work really well. But when it comes to MMA, if you come out doing that, you're going to get slammed on your ass straight away because the wrestling's a factor. Whereas there's a lot more success from K1 guys coming over to MMA than there has been Muay Thai guys coming over to MMA. And I know that's different when you look at one championship, but if you just stick two Muay Thai guys in an MMA fight, you have a really fucking good MMA fight, and Muay Thai doesn't seem to be the limiting factor. But then you stick them against a Gary Tonin or something, and get taken down and smushed. So, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, so your style is more so centered around being able to adapt like to different rules more easily.
Yes. Well, I want a system that when I'm having a K1 night, the MMA guys can still jump on, get involved and progress. Whereas if I coached like a Muay Thai style and then had the MMA as a side piece, it would the two wouldn't blend together. And so the guys would have to really pick and choose the classes that they did to get the best. Whereas at the moment, you can train 6 days a week down here and it doesn't matter what classes you do. You're going to have some progress there.
That's interesting, yeah, because I'd never really thought about that, but you are right, the K1 guys have definitely have more success translating to the MMA. I guess the lower stance, kind of weight a bit more forward and things. What do you think it is?
I would say a lot of that. It's strange because in Muay Thai you can catch kicks and sweep and things, so you would assume that would be the style that goes into
a bit closer to the grappling element with the clinch and stuff.
Yeah. Whereas the K1 completely different. But I think probably the more of the focus on the footwork and foot positioning probably helps. And also it goes back to that style where there are low kicks and calf kicks and things that have come into K1 before MMA. And you don't really have the calf kick in Muay Thai. I mean, it could work. Slamming bones at each other is slamming bones, isn't it? But because of the lighter stance and the ability to pick that up, I say just a little bit of bone there, and that'll fuck up your evening.
That is rough.
It is about. Have you experienced the bone-on-bone contact yet?
Not to a high, like even to only with like a minimal power, and that's rough enough. Yeah. I can't imagine a full, like an intentional kick.
Yeah,
fucking dig it in.
You've really got to like if you're a fan of the sport, you like watching MMA or K1 or whatever, and you're watching it, and they slam a low kick in, and you're like, oh yeah, low kick. They don't really, I don't want to see knockouts, man. Go to your local kickboxing Muay Thai gym and just say, dude, would you kick me in the leg? 20%. Sign the waiver, sign your life away, and just let them go. And you'll be like, what the fuck? A peaked out professional athlete kicking another peaked out professional athlete in the leg is it's an otherworldly kind of pain. It's really bad. And then you do it to the calf. I had a guy, an experienced guy here. When we started adding the calf kicks in, I was doing a class demonstrating how to do it, and we set them up with a step off, an angular step off towards the back, because it tends to line up their lead leg in the middle of your stance, and that's the time to throw. So as soon as their leg's coming down, bam, you land the calf kick. And I demonstrated this on him 3 times, and it was a very light, we're both wearing shinnies, and he's like, coach. And he had some sort of weird welt swelling and whatever else come up, and he was off for months. Yeah, like it was pressing on the nerve. He couldn't feel his foot. He was out for like 2 months or something. And that's the power of the calf kick. You've got to look after this shit. But you see people landing them in fights, and you're like, come on, kick him in the head.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's some high level shit. That'll ruin your night.
Yeah, no, that is awful. And I mean, even with like you said, the leg kicks, like people don't appreciate, but how rough that is.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And then people will stomp their toe on a coffee table and complain.
Yeah.
But then they'll sit there watching fights like, dude, come on, hit each other in the head some more. Stop holding each other against the cage, waiting for your legs to come back to life. It's a strategy, mate. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Got a plan.
Yeah, I've got a plan here.
I find it quite interesting, though, that you kind of go that way, more so K1 style, because wasn't it you were more pro Muay Thai was sort of the
I competed in Muay Thai as a pro. I've never competed in K1. I've just always liked the sport. I know, yeah. Right. I know, yeah. I've done points kickboxing, I've done American freestyle kickboxing, so I've done whatever, wherever I can, and Chinese kickboxing and stuff, which is very similar to the K1 rule set. Yeah. But with weird sweeps and catches,
crazy throws,
judo and shit. Yeah, it's so strange. If you've never looked at Sander fighting or Sanchow fighting, it's an interesting sport to watch. I can't believe it's not more popular. Oh, also,
it's wicked.
The best bit is they fight on a platform. So
if
you're doing it on an
elevated platform.
Yeah. So imagine a boxing ring with no posts, and they just put crash mats around it. Yeah. You're allowed to push each other out of the ring to score points. Yeah. Which is
don't you win or something if you knock someone off the platform?
What it is
or you win the round or something?
No. Oh. So they score you the high score, which is, I think it's 3 points. Now, I'm going back years now, so it could be completely different. So referees or judges, would sit there with clickers in their hand. So if somebody lands a jab, a punch to the body or whatever, you would give them 1 click. You'd have a blue corner, a red corner, and you'd click, and 2 points for a kick to the body and 3 points for a kick to the head. But it would also depend on where the fighters were stood to what could be seen cleanly. So sweeps and throws, the referee would declare the points and be like, this dude 3 points, this dude 2 points because you both went down, whatever. But it was clear as shit to all 3 referees. So it's a really good way to make sure that you've got 3 points on your card, because if you've got only 3 judges, they're going to be sat at different angles, and only one of them, if you're here, this guy can see you, but these 2 can't really see the exchange. You're just guessing. I say guessing, strategic clicking. But that's how it worked for me anyway.
Yeah. It is a really interesting rule set. We one of the earlier podcasts was he was a Shaolin practitioner, but he fought Sandar, and K1 was his.
So he's legit. He's legit. It's not just
he gets the pass.
Yeah.
He is no joke.
Yeah. That's it. If you've done 20 years of kung fu and never sparred, you're a joke. So, sorry. You're like, I've got friends.
Oh God,
my other listeners. No, it's fine. It's fine. You can do what you want. But you're a joke.
I might have to cut that as just a soundbite, and that'll be the opening for you.
Yeah, just put a bleep over it, and they can fill the gaps themselves. Am I calling him a cunt? Am I calling him a joke? We'll never know. Could be pussy. Yeah, you'd be fine.
Yeah. But sorry. Going back to the thing. So you've competed on different rule sets, not K1. But how come you kind of gravitated away from the Muay Thai style then? If that's sort of the main.
I knew that the focus, especially because Gav's had 10th Planet Banbury for years now, and he's coached jiu-jitsu in Banbury even longer. But when he came to me, because we were long-time training partners, and we tried to set things up together before, and it didn't really work out. And he came back to me and said, look, I'm thinking of setting up my own place. Jiu-jitsu is one thing, but I would love the MMA side of things as well, And I was like, fucking right. So I thought, rather than me going and making another Muay Thai gym, because there's 2 Muay Thai gyms in Banbury already. Right. I'm like, do I come in as a 3rd Muay Thai gym, or do I come in and go, no, I'm doing things different. I'm going to focus on K1. If you want to just strike and you don't want to do the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling side of things, we'll do K1 sparring. And everybody else, it will work for them for their MMA route as well. Do things differently. I've always enjoyed the sport of K1. I don't know if you've watched much Glory, but it's a fantastic rule set.
Yeah.
Man. There's some really good fighters in there. But yeah, that was my thinking.
No, I think that makes sense. I think that's pretty cool, to be fair.
Yeah. It's one of these. I think I would rather have done K1 back in the day, but it wasn't around.
Right.
Where I trained, I say even the Muay Thai gyms that I went to, they weren't talking about K1. The shows that I'd go to, it was an entirely Muay Thai show. It's only now that you have shows putting on Muay Thai, K1, boxing, and MMA all on the same show.
Yeah.
It wasn't a done thing back in the day. It was like, we're a Muay Thai gym, we're running a Muay Thai show, bring your Muay Thai fighters. So yeah, it wasn't something we did. We used to watch like Alistair Overeem and whoever else in the K1 tournaments back in the day whilst we were training, but there wasn't gyms out there, or there wasn't the facility there for it. So it's strange to me because, in my opinion, it's a better sport to watch or to understand for the average person that's never done it.
Yeah.
You compare that to Muay Thai, you have no idea how the scoring system works.
The scoring is wild.
It can be. I think I hear all sorts of weird things about Muay Thai scoring and what has effect and what doesn't. And, you know, the last round scores more than the first round. But whenever I've looked over the judges' shoulders, I'm seeing the 10-point must system across all 5 rounds. They're like, yeah, no, he did really well in the 5th round. That's why he won the fight, even though he got battered. I'm like, okay. I'm like, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. I'm like, well, I don't see it. So maybe that's not everybody doing it, but the limited amount of judges' shoulders that I've looked over, I've never seen anything other than the 10-point must. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
It's nice to know it's simpler than there's a lot of mystery around that, I guess.
Yes.
Although I wonder if have you done the pilgrimage to Thailand?
No, I never have. I don't. That's not my cup of tea, man. No. If you look at it, like, we're doing a podcast in the gym right now, and it's sparkling clean.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I'm a big clean dude. I like new kit, I like everything to be cleaned out. Even the gloves that we loan out to people, they don't go back on the rack. They go into a cleaning cupboard. They're living in there with a dehumidifier and a disinfecting thing. And so when they come back out, they're cleanish gloves.
Yeah.
You know, that's not how things were done back in the day. They were just lobbed back on.
It can be a bit grotty.
Yeah, it would be. Having a really grubby set of loaner gloves would be a really good incentive for me to sell more gloves. You know, like, I don't want to wear them anymore. I'll buy some gloves off you, Chris. But I just can't do it to myself. I like thinking that this is a very clean spot to train.
Yeah.
You know, same as upstairs. We're spraying down. We're buying the best disinfectants. And that's just something for me. That's our cleaner coming in now.
Where is the best place for people to find you and obviously Banbury? Online...
Banbury is where Banbury is. I can't do anything about that. You know, Google it. You'll be fine. So the website is strikingclinicbanbury.com. We have a link for like a week's free trial there. It's running all year round. So you just sign up, put your details in, and then after that, it's pretty much cavemanish. You can walk through the door and do whatever, but whenever you first walk through the door is when your week's trial starts, and you get to try everything then, except for the invite-only sparring. If you do want to spar on the Mondays, you have to kind of show that you're not a complete bell end, and that's about it. If you're not a complete bell end,
that's the entry criteria.
Yeah, and you've got a gum shield, you can pretty much spar on the Mondays, but we keep it nice and chill. If you're being a dick, I'll kick you out. After that, you're good to go. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I should mention? Yeah, follow me on Instagram. I don't use it often enough. Although I'm 36, my body's aging in dog years and my mind's aging in dementia years. So, I should use it more often. But every time they change something, I'm like, this is hard for me to understand. Yeah. So I'll try to be better. That's what we'll do.
Well, I'll put all of the links in the descriptions for whatever platform that people are listening on anyway. So that's easier. You don't even have to remember it.
Beautiful way.
But definitely worth coming to check down. I'm going to come back a couple more times. I think I'm going to try and drive up here because do you know what? In the mornings, it's not so bad. I thought it was about 2 hours before. It only took me an hour and a half today. So come down, do a day or two. It's all right.
Do it, mate. Do it. Yeah, mate. If you can get in on a Wednesday night, I know that's a bit of a shit for you, but if you can get in on a Wednesday night, I'll let you spar.
I'm honoured. I'm honoured.
We'll feed you to the lambs. We'll see how this goes. You know, feed you to the lambs, feed you to the wolves.
Lions
Like, I'll feed you to the fucking team, mate.
Lambs I can deal with. That's okay.
Feed you to the lambs. Like, oh no, I'm going to get licked to death, maybe suckled. That's
perfect. Well, I think that's an ideal way to wrap up.
Very gay.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for having me, mate.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. As you heard, Chris has got loads and loads of experience. Really funny guy. I had a great time recording this one. I hope he did too. If you're listening, Chris, hope you enjoyed it. But please do make sure to check out Chris and the Striking Clinic. Support them on Instagram and social media. You'll find all of the links down in the description. Please don't forget to share the podcast as well. Share it around with another martial artist that you think will enjoy this. Check out some of our other episodes. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. And give us a shout out here and there where you can. Until the next time, thanks very much.